Today I wanted to talk about audio versus MIDI, and this will be pretty basic. If you've been doing music, especially computer music or synth music for any length of time, you might want to just skip this one. But for anybody who's really new to this, very beginner level, then this will be really helpful, I think. So that's why I wanted to do it. So let me jump over to my wonderful, amazing, kind of basic PowerPoint. So MIDI versus audio. So what audio is, for our purposes, talking about recording music onto a computer, to your DAW through an audio interface of some kind, it's really just a digital representation of recorded sound. So, for example, if I play acoustic piano or a trumpet or a violin, something of that nature, or if I'm singing, that's what this will be. So traditionally it's been the most realistic because it picks up all the subtleties of playing a real instrument or of your singing. However, the disadvantages, you've got large file sizes and it's harder to manipulate. And I'll mention this again, but we'll get into that a little bit later when I do a demonstration. So in MIDI is different because it's really a file with a set of instructions that tells the computer what you want to hear. You can think of it like sheet music for a human player, right? If I'm playing trumpet, and I think we'll use a lot of trumpet today, if I'm playing trumpet and I look at a piece of sheet music, it tells me what notes to play, how long to play them, when to play them, and how loud to play them. So MIDI is really the same thing, but it's telling the computer that information, and it's all contained in this little file. So traditionally this method has been less realistic. If you listen back to like trumpet sounds from the 80s or the 90s, you can definitely tell that it's a synth playing that sound and not a real trumpet player. But on the other hand, they use a lot smaller file sizes or produce a lot smaller file sizes. They're easier to manipulate, so changing notes, changing the melody or whatever you're playing is much easier than it would be if you were using an audio file, and they're more flexible. So let me jump over into Bitwig and I'll give you an example of that. Okay, so let's start with the audio file. So this is my audio file. It's just a person playing a trumpet. So you can hear, even at the very end, that little bit of a vibrato that they added. Right, that's something that, yes, you can play into a synth, but unless you're a trumpet player, that would be something that you might not even think of. It's not as obvious. If I wanted to change one of these notes, yes, you can do it depending on the DAW that you're using with Bitwig. I wouldn't say it's straightforward, but it's doable, where you can choose, okay, I want to take this note and change the pitch or change the gain or the pan on it, whatever it is. So it's possible and it's doable. But let's contrast that to a MIDI file, which is just really, like I said, it's a set of notes, how long each note is. You can see down here kind of how loud or how soft it is. So if I play this, it's just something that I played in real fast on the keyboard. So what I was talking about, first of all, if I wanted to manipulate something, like this note is really soft. So maybe I can just make that louder. And maybe I don't like this note where it was played, so I'll move it up. Maybe even this one, I'll make it a passing note. And I can change the timing. Right. I could quantize it. Maybe even all these, I feel like this is too low. So I could go. put it in a better octave. So it's much easier to manipulate, fix anything that you might have misplayed when you were playing it in. But then I also said it was more flexible. And what I mean by that is, so I used Dimension Pro specifically in this instance just because I wanted to show you have a lot of options. Dimensions Pro has options, and it's a much older synth, so you can hear it's kind of not as realistic as some modern synths, but I could change this to, guitars, organs, pianos, bells, even vocals. So I was just playing around earlier. Let's hear what it sounds like if it's a jazz organ. Or if it's, let's do a Les Paul. Or, just for fun, that's a limitation of the synth because it goes past the range that this synth says it's allowed to. So let's take it down. Right. So some stuff you can do with that. And that's what I meant by saying it's more flexible. You can change the sound. Now this is just the synth Dimensions Pro that's set up to kind of represent as close as it could back then, realistic sounds. But there are all kinds of synths like Serum, Pigments, whatever your DAW has, that can also create incredible sounds, and not necessarily realistic if that's not what you're going for. But at the same time, there's lots of synths there are lots of synths that were designed to make as realistic as possible of sounds for you to add to your music. So anyways, I'm rambling now, but that's kind of hopefully a really basic explanation, but a useful explanation of the difference between MIDI and audio and kind of the pros and cons of using each. Hope you found this useful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, or any comments, leave them in the comments. And also, if you want to, go to bishopswest.com. I've got a free giveaway there for people that are just starting to use Bitwig. Helps you kind of get it set up and start making music as quickly and as easily as possible. So have a great day, guys. Talk to you next time.